Hi everyone, it's Gina. Welcome to my channel, The Artful Addict, and I've been having a blast making these witches hats, and they are paper clips. And I haven't done a paper clip in quite a while, so it seemed like the perfect thing to do for a video. These are very simple and easy to do, so I hope you stick with me. To start with, I use a circle punch. The size of your circle punch, of course, will determine how big your hat is going to be. The largest ones right here, these were made from a 3-inch circle punch. And really most of the rest, even though they are different sizes and shapes, I'll show you how that's possible, but they were made with a 2.5-inch circle punch. So let's move these to the side. Just grab a piece of cardstock. I use the light cardstock. You can also use pattern cardstock. I had this one pulled out. I might use that. I thought that would be really pretty as a pattern. But I've been having so much fun making my own patterns. The paper's rather mottled, but you can just use plain white paper if you would like. So I'm going to stick this in. This is my 3-inch circle punch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this right down the center. You can just eye it with some scissors if you'd like, because the measurements really aren't that big a deal. So you're fine to do that. What I have been doing is just trying to cut it exactly in half, because I can make 2 hats out of each 3-inch circle. My 1.5-inch mark right there. So once we've cut it in half, you can either go ahead and make the hat and then add whatever type of pigment or decorations, or you can go ahead and do that now. And that's what I've been doing. At this stage, it's flat and it's just a lot easier to work with. So I go ahead and color at this stage. All right, so I'll just put a piece of white paper down. And I have been using Distress Oxides and Distress Inks. And I've actually been experimenting with glue. And the reason I've been experimenting is because of this little happy accident. You see, it's kind of blotched. And that was because I think I touched it with my finger after having touched the glue stick. Here's another example. And I just thought that was really interesting. It provided such an interesting texture. And I've been trying to recreate it. And I'm going to try that now. So I've got this glue stick, which is the Scotch Create, and it seems like it stays wet longer than other glues. Maybe not, but that's just my impression. And I think what I'm going to do is really just use my finger and just blot my finger here and there. Anywhere I think I might want some texture to show, I want to try to cover it. I don't want necessarily to cover the whole thing. I like how it looks when there's areas that are smooth and then you have this kind of strange shape of texture in there. Okay, so I'm going to hit this with the heat tool real quick just to make sure it's completely dry. I also love this color combination, so I think I want to go ahead and do this type again. I used aged mahogany, faded jeans, and then topped it off with some black soot. So let's start out with the aged mahogany. I'm just going to rub it all over. I should start to be able to see where it picked up from where my ink was, and you can kind of see my fingerprint showing up. That's cool. So that's our first layer. I left it a little lighter in some places because I'm going to hit those spots more heavily with the faded jeans. Okay, well, the blue is really juicy, so I'm going to go back in with some aged mahogany. I think I will take the blue and hit some of the outside, because it looks like mostly the outside is the aged mahogany. I want a good dispersion of colors throughout. So now I'm going to go over the entire piece. So I only did a so-so job of evenly distributing my fingerprints for that texture. Since this is all still looking kind of damp, I'm going to go ahead and hit it with the heat tool to just ensure that it's all dry. There we go. Now, it's also a good idea to do the back because you will see the back on the back side of your paper clip. So it's best to go ahead and do that side right now as well. I haven't been worrying about texture, but I do try to use the same colors as I did on the front. As you can see, I'm just using whatever ink is left on my little ink pads. I just don't want the back to be the color that it started. Look how pretty that turned out. Of course, you don't have to try to do this and put any texture. I was just having fun playing. I've already made so many, you start to really kind of play around and try new things after a while, and it's just a lot of fun. But look how gorgeous that turned out. That is just beautiful. So now you have your half a piece of circle cut and colored on both sides. Now we start to make the frame for our hat. First we're going to make the pointy part. So I hold it upside down, and this is how you decide how high you want your hat point to be. Some of these aren't very high, but this one is a lot higher and thinner. So this is where you determine that. And I usually kind of put my finger, and it tends to be about 2/3 of the way. And then I fold this over. Now for these that have this shape, I would fold it over to where this rounded part matched up with this side. So I would fold it like this. And that will give you a shape that turns out like this one. If you want one where the brim comes on each side rather than just meeting and being flush on the sides, then what you'll want to do is, instead of doing that, you'll want to do like I originally started, and you'll just go over. Don't worry about the two ends matching up. That's not going to matter. So you decide how thick you want your hat, and you push it down like this. And if you have a bone folder, go ahead and give that a good burnish. And what I'm going to do now is just cut the excess off. Here's what we have. And here's what the back will look like. You're not going to see this part because it'll be glued down, so it doesn't really matter. But you might notice that if you lay it where the point is straight up, the bottom part will be at an angle. You can leave it like that and then just play around with the positioning of where you put it on the brim. Or if you want it right in the center, you may want to touch it up a little bit. Now once you have this cut, we're going to glue it together. And since one side is longer than the other, I always put my glue on the short side. Since I cut that, it leaves a little white edge. I want to make sure I cover that. So I want to go all the way around it. So I've been using the dark color blue, and then I go over it with the black on all sides. This is a bit of an odd shape, but there's plenty to work with to make your brim look really cute. You can play with it a little bit. You can maybe leave it like this, angle the top to cover, and maybe the witch is facing that way. But if you want to go with something more like this, here's what you do. You take your piece, and it already has a nice scoop down at the bottom. And I start over here, and I go up and over. Kind of like a very elongated football. Of course, since I cut, I go over it again real quick. And now you have a nice shape like this. You can't cut it too low because you have to leave room for your paper clip. Now I'm using these little bitty 1/2 inch paper clips. I put the short side on top, facing front, because that's less I have to try to cover with the top of my hat. Now we just have to glue it. Get our paper clip centered. I'm still going to go back to my art glitter glue. It just provides a really secure bond and I feel confident using it. And now I just put on my hat. If you want to angle it, you can, or you can just put it straight up and down. You mainly want to make sure you cover the bottom of your paper clip. That's the main thing. And there you go. Now your hat is all put together. All you have to do now is add whatever you want to around the brim. I have a variety of materials that I've colored with various types of pigment. Some I used watercolor, some I used distress ink. So you can use this or whatever else you have. To decorate this one, I think I want to try something different that I haven't tried yet. And I grabbed some Stickles. This is in silver, and I thought it would be kind of cool. In addition to the texture that I've added, I want to add maybe a little bit of a pattern because it's quite dark now, and I thought it might be nice also just to have a little sparkle going on. Isn't that pretty? It's almost like little diamonds. Isn't that cute? I wonder if I could get a solid line. Let's see. That didn't look quite as good as I hoped. Maybe I just need to make it thicker. Maybe one little row around the edge of the rim. There. See if I can give you a better look. I'll pick it up gently. Isn't that cute? That is so cute. All right. Oh, I love how that turned out. So there you go. Easy peasy. And you have a whole other half to make a new one. So while that's drying, I wanted to take a minute and just kind of show you some of the variations. You could always trim the brim to give it a look like this. You can bend the top of the hat so that it looks like this. All I did was bend it and add a little bit of glue in here. You can use different things for your pigment. You can use acrylic paint, watercolor. I made these two using eyeshadow, and I just love how they turned out. They're gorgeous. This was made with a stencil, and these two were just plain color paper, which I used gray ink first, and then I stamped with one of my little homemade stamps and used that. And you can also just cut out a triangle and cut out a shape of a brim and glue them together. This does not have a paper clip on it, but it could. So you don't have to do the circle punch and the folding and all that, but I know some people have a hard time kind of free-handing things like that, and so I thought that the circle punch may be helpful for some people. Now, instead of using the other half to make another hat, I thought I would show you how I made these pumpkins. Now this does take a little bit of drawing, but I'm sure you can do it, even for beginners. It's pretty simple and straightforward, and I will walk you through it. For this, I did use orange cardstock. If you have an orange ink, you could always use white paper and ink your paper up, but to skip that step, I went ahead and used some orange paper. Now this, I also started with a hole punch. I used a 1.5 inch hole punch for these. Use your circle punch and pop out 2 circles. You can see this one's completed, and the entirety of the pumpkin is in that 1.5 inch circle punch. But all I've done was I drew in my stem at the top. Let's go this way for this one. Something like that. I'll try to bring you in closer. Okay. Now, here is my stem. where the bottom is, I draw a hump. Okay, and then I draw another hump in the back. Okay, like that. This one was left in the shape of the circle. This one has a little bit of a flatter bottom. So if you want the flatter bottom, you'll need to just kind of trim off that very tip edge of the circle. If you don't want to mess with that, you can just leave it in its original shape, and we'll just try to create a little bit of a flatter surface with our shading. So we have our first hump, and I just kind of bring it right on down to the bottom, right into the center. Now this hump's going to be this outside edge. The same thing goes for this side, but that's a big chunk, so we'll want something in the middle. So then I'll come up and then bring that back down. And then the same thing here. You go up, out, and down. By going up, it really helps to drive home that shape of a pumpkin, how it's going up and then out and then down. Okay. You can go back here and add more and to show the pumpkin is going around, but I like to have it cut out because I like to add a little leaf. You don't have to add the leaf, you can just leave it just with the stem. But, you know, I like to add the leaf, so I need to be able to cut the space out so I have room to put it in. This is the only part that gets a little tricky, is when you go to cut it out, because you need to cut out the second piece with the first piece so that they fit exactly. I do my best just to hold them together in line. And actually, let me see, maybe I'll use a big paper clip. That's probably a better idea. There. Okay, line them up. So we'll see. Maybe my paper clip will help hold them together. And now I'm just going to cut out the area between my stem and the pumpkin. It doesn't have to be perfect. You've seen pumpkins, they aren't perfect, so don't stress yourself out too hard about that. So it looks like my paper clip helped hold them together well between that and holding on to it with a pretty firm grip. I've got two mirror images, and that's perfect. So let's take this off. And now on the back side, I want to do similar lining that I did on the front, because this is the back of the pumpkin. So where the stems meet, I'm just going to put another hump and come down, and then I go up, up, out, and around, and up, out, and around. Now we're ready to bring in our pens. I'm going to start with a size 4 just to make the heavier lines. You don't have to be super precise. You can do it nice and neat if you want, but I really love this kind of sketchy look. And that's all I'm going to do today. So I'm just going to kind of go over where the hump is and where the really thick lines are going to be. Don't worry about the outside edge, we'll do that in just a little bit. You can also work on your stem. So it's going to be pretty dark right here beside the base of the stem. Then I just kind of add some lines going up. And then to the side, I just kind of follow the shape of what I've cut out. Okay, and here's the front. We'll do the same thing. While I still have my thick pen, I want to add some of the really thick shading down here at the bottom. You want to follow the curvature of how the pumpkin would naturally be. So this side, I'm going at this angle, right? Like it's going to go out and around like this. This one is still to the side. This one is to the side, straight up and down, and then start to work its way to the other side. Now we're going to lean toward the left, and then we're going to slant even further. So there's our bottom, and I'll do the same thing up at the top. Let's do the back as well. Now I'm going to go down to a size 2 and add some finer lines. Sorry, I keep going out of frame, my apologies. Let me back you up some. There we go. And just add some sketchy lines. I leave mostly the center orange. I don't put very many lines, and I keep the lines closest to the thick line that I've already established. You can kind of go over it. If you start to lose it, you can kind of go over it again. There we go. Now what I do is I go around the edge with a brush pen. A lot of times your pens, when you buy a pen set, it comes with a brush pen. And if you're not sure what to do with that, this is a great idea. It makes it really easy just to go around the edge, and you can get rid of the orange and outline whatever it is you're working on. You can also ink the edges, but when you use the brush pen, it really enables you to get in the tight little crevices like this, and that can be really hard to get covered when you've got an ink and a sponge. So we do both the front and the back. All right, so we've got our ink on. So our pumpkin is ready. Now we just need to do our leaf. I've used this cardstock, and this has texture on one side, and that's been working out really well. And I've just been cutting a little piece off. For those of you who want to know, maybe 1 1/8 in length. I am going to be folding it over, so keep that in mind. However wide you think you might want your leaf. This one's about 5/8 of an inch wide. So now I'm going to fold it over, okay, like this. And I'm going to start cutting on the folded side. And I'm just going to cut the shape of a leaf. Go up and come down. Now when I come down, oops, it's kind of a wobbly looking leaf. Let me see if I can fix that a little. Now when I come down, I don't go all the way. And that way, because I cut on the folded end, it remains attached, which comes in handy in just a moment. Now while it's out, I'm going to go ahead and add some lines to it. And I usually have the textured side showing, just to give it a little bit more interest and depth, making it look like a leaf. And I'm just going to add a line up the center, and then little lines coming out. Okay. I'll add a line up the center, and then lines coming out. I will use my brush pen to go around it just like I did the pumpkin. So I think this was going to be my front, although I kind of like this side better. I'm not crazy about how I did that. I think the line shading went up a little too high in the center, so I may end up just making this one the back, which means when all's said and done, it's going to face the same direction as the ones I've previously done. I'm using a regular small paper clip for this, and I'm going to check it real quick just to see how much space I have. See, this one comes below, and that's okay. I mean, it still works fine, but I think I prefer that it doesn't actually poke out. So it's up to you. You can maybe put the shorter side, have that on the outside. I think I'm going to leave it like that. So what I do is I take my little leaf, once I have my paper clip on, and I'm going to slide in my leaf like this. I'm going to add a little bit of glue. Might have added a bit too much glue. But I'm going to glue my leaf together. Okay. And then I'm going to slide my paper clip back on. Once you have your leaf glued together with your paper clip in the middle and you've got it pushed down, now you just have to glue the two pieces together. So I always like to put a lot of glue around the paper clip. And you can even make your leaf be in the front. And there you go. There is your little pumpkin paper clip. Let's see how it looks in a journal. So here's my fall journal, and yes, I am still working on it. It's been like, what, a year now? That's pretty sad. So let's see how it looks. Ta-da! Oh, isn't that cute? Very sweet. Let's see how these little witches' hats look. Oh, that's cute. Now remember, this is quite a small paper clip and it's well below, so you have to be careful sticking it somewhere too high because it'll poke out of your book. But if you don't mind, then that's fine. Otherwise, you might want to keep it somewhere lower in your book. Here are the ones we made today. And here is the rest, just to give you a little bit of inspiration. I had great fun making these. Like so many of our projects, it is just addicting, and I kept making them and finally had to stop. Let me record a video. So I hope you enjoyed them. If you did, I would love a thumbs up. And if you're still with me, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And if you have not yet subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. It tells YouTube you enjoy the content on my channel, and that really helps my channel grow. And I love to hear from you. I love your comments. If you make these, I would love to see them. Take a picture and shoot it to my email. My email address is theartfuladdict@gmail.com, and just send them to me. I would love to see how yours turn out. Thank you so much for joining me, and that's going to be it for this one. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.